Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Market Legends. So today we've got Venkat who's come on to the podcast. Thank you so much for agreeing to come onto the podcast today. Firstly, for the listeners who are listening, how would you describe yourself as a trader?
Yeah, thanks, Kunal, for inviting me. I would describe myself as a normal trader. I learn every day. Actually, I am a self-learned trader. For me, the capital protection is the top priority. I follow my system. I have defined rules for my entry, exit, and the risk. And I always manage risk when I take any decision. I always maintain risk-reward ratio.
Mhm.
So after taking a trade, I wait for the outcome, either profit or loss. And this trading is like it requires a lot of patience because you have to wait for the right opportunity. Sometimes you may not get the trade also, but
Absolutely.
I follow my system, and my capital protection is the top priority.
And you've spent 20 years in corporate training and NBFCs. Most traders come from some sort of tech or finance background. How does the soft skills expert look at a candlestick chart differently to engineers?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I believe your background and experience always matters. It always shapes you. But when it comes to the market, it is about the mindset. So I am from a commerce and management background, and I always see the behavior in the candlestick. I normally check the daily candlestick. I see whether there's a conviction and stronger intent is there or not. And I also see the market structure, whether it aligns or supports the that conviction. Then only I take trade. And when I take trade, I wait for the outcome, either stop or profit. So I strictly follow my rules, and capital protection is my priority always.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know you started trading or let's say investing during the great financial crisis. Most people were running for exits, taking their money out of the market. You were pretty much walking into the fire. So does that chaos first introduction make you a better trader in today's market volatility? When, you've been able to kind of step into a place where people were really scared, didn't know what to do, and you kind of just went, this is when I'm going to be taking action.
Yeah, that was a very good experience, interesting experience actually. I was introduced to market during the market crisis in 2008. That time when the news was everywhere, people were speaking about it, they were worried. I was a bit curious. I started tracking the happening and the development. And there was a distributor office near my place. So I happened to visit there and learned about the investment schemes and all. At that time, I started with mutual fund. I started SIP. Then I was happy to see my portfolio was performing well. So I made some lump sum investments during that time. So within 5 years, my this capital got doubled, and I was happy about the return, so I decided to withdraw it. And the funny part is the market went on rallying after my withdrawal also. So, but I was happy about the return, so I decided to withdraw. So today also I am very happy about my decision. I always respect my decision because when you take a decision, we don't know that market is going to go up or down. If it goes down, maybe we would think that I have made a wise decision to exit. Or if it goes up, then you will feel a miss. You will feel that you have missed the rally. So
Absolutely.
always I always accept the decision
Hmm.
and the outcome. And that experience has taught me that profit taking is also a decision. It is never a mistake. So you
Hmm.
can't chase a full move. You cannot catch a full move, but whatever you should be happy with the return and the profit you have gained.
Absolutely. And I know you had a turning point in your trading journey. So, yeah, you kind of took that change from long-term trading to intraday trading in 2018 when you hit your first steep learning curve. So was that the single most humbling moment during your first year that forced you to abandon that old ego?
So that's actually my learning curve was a little tough because when I started the intraday trading in 2018, that time the COVID had happened that time,
Hmm.
and the lockdown was there. So initially, my initial trades, were in profit. I got lucky that time that my initial trades were profit, and that gave me that was the worst thing that. I got the false confidence because I thought that I am now learned about the market. I've got the hold of it. So I started, getting more into the market. I started doing over trading, like revenge trade, using leverage and trying to recover the losses. So my activity is more that time. I like any beginner would start. They would do intraday mistakes. I also did, and eventually I, blown my capital. So I tried again actually, but it had become a pattern over time that I was doing over trading using leverage. So again I blowed up my capital. But since the capital was not that big, but it was a hard-earned money, so it hurt me. Then I took a break from trading, but I concentrated on my other work commitment. And when I got time that I could give time to the market, I again came back with a smaller capital. But this time I came with a much disciplined approach. I came with the rules. I had rules for the taking maximum number of trades. So I restricted my trading for taking just 3 trades a day,
Hmm. Hmm.
risking the capital, 1% of capital, 0.5 to 1% of the capital, and risk management. I learned about the position sizing also. All this, I practiced it till I built it into a habit, and that was a turnaround for me. That the losses was reduced, my capital protection, capital got protected, and I feel that the beginners also should not learn this hard way,
Hmm.
because if they come and come into the market with the right mindset and the approach, and they trade with discipline and focus on capital protection, that would make their trading much peaceful, I would believe.
Interesting. Interesting. And how long did it take you to kind of refine those rules? Because, to limit from over trading to kind of minimize your trading to realize that you have a niche. Because I know you mentioned that you have a 4 hour trading rule where you only trade
Yes.
for the first 4 hours of the day. Is that because the market is more honest in the morning, or because you don't trust that you'll make better decisions later on in the day after lunch? What is the reason for that?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, I trade in the first 4 hours.
Hmm.
I wait for the market to settle down till 10:30. Then after only I start looking for the opportunities.
Hmm.
I trade from 10:30 to 1 o'clock only. That's the specific time window I follow. So I wait for the right opportunity. The entry conditions, if it is fulfilled, then only I trade. Otherwise, I skip it, and I am perfectly okay with that. So for me, the my priority is to protect the capital and not to force trade.
Nice. And would you say that that 4 hour rule helps you from prevents you from revenge trading, over trading, and self sabotaging? Yeah, it
Yes,
would.
it is. It helps actually that when I started following the specific time window, I was more focused. My mind was alert, and I could focus on my entries, on my trade, and risk management also followed. That all helped me. I stopped trading revenge, because always market gives you opportunity to come again and trade and cash trade in, get the right opportunity and trade. So that helped me, and the I also it helped me to approach the trading in a calmer way and a much disciplined way. And when my risk was protected, I know at the time of entry itself that how much I am going to risk. So that way I am always prepared. I normally trade with quite clear rules and clear.
Hey guys, quick pause in today's podcast. I want to introduce you to today's sponsor, which is Get Leveraged. Get Leveraged is a prop firm built by traders for traders, and their mission is simple: identify talent and reward them with capital. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you use the code ML05 at the checkout, you'll get a discount on the challenge fee, but more importantly, you'll be enrolled into a lifetime trading league. What that means, you'll be permanently eligible for every single giveaway, milestone reward, major raffles, which means fully paid assessments, challenge resets, even funded account packages, and monetary prizes. And get this, their turbo challenge starts at $8.88, so you can get funded to up to 150k. That's insane value. Link and code is in the description, so let's get back to the episode.
Now I know you're very famous for the seatbelt analogy, where you talk about the seatbelt, the shield, the speeding, the engine life. For the listeners listening today, could you explain what the seatbelt analogy is?
Yeah, I use this analogies in my. I'm quite active in my LinkedIn, and I use these analogies, these relatable analogies, so that I could this could be relatable and people could understand it easily. Seatbelt is it is a safety measure, safety guardrail for driving safety. So likewise in trading also, one must have the risk measures in place when you are taking a trade. Like when you have the daily trading risk per trade, if it is fixed, if it is position sized. So you know the risk at the time of entry, and you know when you take a trade, you know what will be your loss and how much you are going to gain. So that way your worry will disappear.
And something which is also very interesting that I wanted to ask you about was your identity shift. Now, I know that you say we should be a risk manager first and trader second. So if there's a listener here who's, thinking about, okay, wait, what's the difference? Or, why should I be someone who manages my risk? And what's the difference between being a trader, right? How would you kind of describe that to them? And why do you think it's more important to consider yourself as a risk manager first and a trader second?
Yeah, risk manager first should be the right approach for the trading. So some even the listeners who are listening to and they become a risk managers first. So the risk, understanding the risk and controlling the risk is the paramount in trading. So once your risk is protected, so you are always be prepared for the risk. And always, I when I trade, I know with my risk limit, I keep the money on the table, risk money on the table. So I am always prepared. So the listeners also, if they have the risk in place, they should not worry about the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about it that when you have a stop loss, you have set a stop loss, you have a 1% risk per trade of your capital. So you know the worst case scenario, how much you are going to lose. So you should not worry about the outcome or stressed about it. You cannot control the market, but you have to control your controllables. What can be controlled, like your entry, your risk, your discipline.
I like
So
that.
that's what we can control. Wait for the outcome, and you have to accept.
Okay,
So
so
it is like that. You have to do it you have to repeat it, and with consistency.
right, so focus on the things you can control and be very good at those things, and the things that you can't control, don't allow them to consume you, right? Because the market is random, it does whatever it needs to do. At the end of the day, you can only control yourself, but you can't, like, there's something that I got a really good piece of advice which you probably have heard before as well, is you can control yourself but you can't control your environment.
Yes, absolutely.
And at the end of the day, if you allow your environment to dictate how you feel, you're going to be trading in an emotional state and you'll be manipulated by the market. So I want to ask you something. You touched up on this briefly, was about revenge trading. You said that you went through a phase of revenge trading in your journey. Now, we've all been there. We've all went through losing trades with back-to-back losses, wins. And how did you overcome that? I mean, did you have a trading coach or did you have to learn to walk away by yourself? How did that really work for yourself?
Yes, that is an interesting, because this is what that makes mistakes. The traders make mistakes. So revenge trading is when you take trade to recover the losses. So when you do it when you take a trade in anger or in revenge, you will increase the risk, you will overtrade, and you are bound to make mistakes because the chances or the probability of making loss is higher. So that is so the one simple rule is that you should close the laptop and walk away. And if you have like a daily limit in place, if that is hit, daily loss limit, so you can end for the day. So there is you should not do any revenge trade, or there should be no exceptions further.
And what advice would you give to newer traders coming into the space who are still battling with revenge trading? Maybe they've been experienced traders as well. What is a good way to walk away? Would you say just set a limit and then when you hit the limit, you walk away?
Yeah. When you come to trade, you should come with the clarity that how much is you are going to risk, how much is your risk capital, and what will be your daily loss limit. Suppose if 1% is the daily loss, means risk per trade, and daily loss limit is say 3%. So you have to follow that. Simply you have to follow that. Once you when you get losses and you reach that limit, so you have to stop trading.
Right. And I mean, don't get me wrong, you have to build a level of discipline to be able to
Yes,
stop.
it is required very much.
So how have you been able to work on your discipline over the years? Were you naturally disciplined, or was it something that you had to train yourself after you came into trading?
No, I had to practice because earlier I used to impatiently. I wanted quick results. I always wanted to. I tried to perfect my trades, over
Mhm.
optimize my trades, took leverage trade. So all those mistakes happened. So that's when I learned, and I also noticed the pattern in me that when I was trading, I was doing over trade. So earlier in the morning, I used to be in the green, and due to over trading, later in the day, I used to be ending my day in red. So
Huh.
that caught me, and I thought, this pattern is harming me. So it's harming the performance also. So I changed the approach for the trading, and that break also helped me resetting my this pattern. And I approached in the second time. I approached with the rules in a much disciplined way. I had set my rules for the risk, the entries, the risk management, profit target, or risk reward, everything. So I made it a point to. So before it was a little uncomfortable to accept it because when you are used to taking a higher number of trades or taking a higher risk, so that was a little uncomfortable in the beginning. When you start following the rules and you have to accept the uncomfortable. So that is the thing. You have to practice. Then eventually you will get used to that, and it will get develop into habit. That will come by practice only. Once you
Mhm.
do a thing, when you practice a thing several number of times, it becomes a habit. And when that habit becomes, it is very difficult to break. So now I don't. Now it. I don't bother about these things, losses and all, because I everything I have a clarity about the risk and everything. So I just wait for the right opportunity. I take trade and I accept the outcome.
And what is your process like? For example, let's say that you wake up in the morning, you're trading for 4 hours in a day. What do you do before the day starts to prepare yourself for trading? What do you do after your session is finished trading? And when you take a trade, is there anything in particular you do, like journaling? So
Yes.
could you just walk us through what an ideal trading day would look like for you?
Yeah. So I would begin my first thing is before I used to spend a lot of time at the night, skipping my reduce the sleep hours and all. But now I maintain that I have a good, 7-8 hours of sleep. That is very much essential. Then I would start normally, and I would finish off all the routine morning things, and also, get ready for the I would get ready, keep myself free for the trade, and I normally start at 10:30 only. So before 10:30, I just sit to 15-20 minutes before, and I just have an overview of the market sentiment or situation. If it is convincing, if it is fit, if it is aligned to my rules, then I would take aligned decisions. If it is bullish, then I would only go for bullish trade. So I strictly follow that.
Right. And so touching up on like discipline and, a lot of the psychological things that we need to have in place to trade. I know that you're quite famous for your mission on a company called Introspect. So the gap in the market is there's thousands of tools, indicators, and signals, but almost none of them are for discipline. So why did you decide to build a psychology first tool rather than another charting app?
Yeah. So there are a lot of thousands of indicators are there available in the market. There are enough of indicators. There is abundance of knowledge. So there is no scarcity. But why the traders are failing? That's because the reason is the lack of discipline. So
Hmm.
that's why I built this tool called Introspect. It is the psychology first tool that helps trader to know themselves. It is a mirror that shows their mistakes and weakness, and it helps to develop their discipline into habit, knowing the risk limits. Journaling also shows the mistakes, so it builds discipline, and it helps to protect the capital. Trading is about survival and the capital protection. So if you are trading disciplined and your priority, you prioritize on capital protection, that's the area, the tool has been decided to help the traders.
And you've designed this specifically for, well, let's say the why is the discipline first in trading, but you've designed it specifically for modern Indian identity, right? So to
Yes.
really help people because that kind of applied for yourself. So you've seen it work for yourself and work for other people now that you've now been able to help people who have that. So in terms of the target audience of Introspect, who would be the perfect candidate to come to Introspect, which would help them build that discipline?
Yeah. So it is the tool is made for the intraday traders who want to develop discipline, who want to build discipline and avoid the costly intraday mistakes. So in India today, there is a lot of energy and ambition, and people would want to grow faster. They want to get quicker results. They approach trading like they want to hit six on every ball. It's also about staying how you should protect yourself, stay at the crease, leaving the bad ones, leaving the bad balls, and all. So how it matters in cricket also matters in trading, the survivability fact of trading. So capital protection and doing it with discipline, that is the key, and that itself will protect and in the longer run.
Mhm.
So, this real problem, I want to address this real problem, the lack of discipline. That is the real problem. So, to fix that, I designed this tool. So, it will help the traders to build the discipline, the required discipline that is required for the trading, and know the risk, uh,
Mhm.
know the risk, and trade peacefully.
The question I have is because look, there's going to be a lot of people listening to this. Some people will be like, well, why is discipline so important? Because they're quite new. And then there'll be some people like, but why shouldn't I just go buy a magic course for X amount of money? Right. And won't that teach me discipline? Now, what would you say to that? Why would you say that there's more value in something like Introspect than there is in some sort of random trading course that they might find online?
Yeah. So discipline is a daily practice. It is very important for trading. So it is the foundation. So I want the foundation for Indian traders, so that they trade with discipline, a disciplined approach with a risk first, discipline first approach to trading. So I built this trade tool, which is highly value and affordable, because trading risk management should not be a luxury. It should be affordable. It should be a foundation for the Indian traders.
Mhm.
So uh, I I designed this to help Indian traders to address this issue and make it affordable.
Mhm.
The subscription is not the real value for me, but it is about the building the community of risk managers.
Interesting. Yeah. And I definitely think that's something which is definitely required in the industry where people are looking less to these fast cars and big hotels and all of these things. And they realize that trading is more about the discipline, the focus, the hard work, and building up the skill and realizing that there's things much more greater than the fast cars and the hotels and all of these things, because that's what the media is feeding us. Now, I know that you kind of have a bit of a dream for Introspect, but just before I go into that, just to let the people know who are listening, I put the link in the description of the video if you do want to check out Introspect. So you can check that out in the bottom of the video, especially that's going to be with all of the socials and so forth. So you have a bit of a dream here, which is your goal is to scale up to over 10,000 users. So you want to have over 10,000 risk managers within the community in the retail trader industry in India, right? Now, how would that change the entire Indian stock market landscape? Because, to have all of those people, it's a really beautiful dream. I mean, what would be the goal once you've achieved that?
Yeah, that's my dream. 10,000 retail users, they use the tool and become disciplined. So it would, change the entire landscape. The losses would reduce. The more the people would respect this profession, and it will also change the perception of the society towards trading, because they see trading as a gambling speculation activity. They are hearing about the losses, and
Mhm.
also the stats is that 90% of the traders are losing. So this changes the perception. They would see it as a skilled profession.
And just kind of on the topic of discipline, do you believe that discipline is a transferable skill? Like how you become a better trader actually, like the skills that you have, do you feel like you can transfer them through a conversation, or do you feel like the person who's listening needs to experience a lot of things to learn something like discipline?
Discipline has taught me to become a better, has helped me to become a better trader, a better person in life. It helped me to make me calm decisions, respect my limits, and becoming calmer
Hmm.
and adhering to follow the process. So all this has helped me, and it has helped me to become a better person also.
And do you think that because you've been able to experience on learning how to be so disciplined in the markets, that you could teach that to somebody else at this point?
Yeah, it is, because it is transferable skill, because if somebody adopts it and they practice it and builds that habit, it will surely benefit.
And I
That's
mean,
why the tool is that's why the tool is designed for them, so they can build this discipline, and they make steady, they protect the capital and grow steadily.
and how would you, as a new, like, is this tool for all traders of different levels, or is it mostly for experienced traders?
No, it can be used for any level of traders.
Hmm.
So discipline is universal. That is for anyone. That is for everyone. So there's people who are struggling with the discipline or consistency, that will surely help. And the people who are already experienced, they can use it for following the rules and following the manage the risk and
Hmm.
journaling. And also, it has the beautiful feature of market engine. It shows the market sentiment, so
Okay,
it would
interesting.
surely help the traders to make aligned decisions.
Good. Yeah, yeah. And how do you use Introspect on a day-to-day basis?
I use market engine. I use its feature for journaling also,
Hmm.
and it also has a behavioral tool that audits the behavioral through questionnaires. So it shows the mistakes, their behavior pattern, and it gives a recommendation also. So that helps to know the or perfect their discipline parameters.
Absolutely, I love that, and I think those digging into those key things are super important. Now, let's say somebody's using Introspect and it's kind of guiding them, but they kind of want some sort of human sort of interaction. Can they reach out to you and speak to you?
Yeah, they can email us. There's a contact us section that
Hmm.
they can surely reach us to us. We have various uh, we will surely respond to them, and we are also offering one-to-one counseling sessions also. If they want, they can counsel with us. It is purely confidential, and the risk management batches also, it may start in future, but not now.
Nice. And for yourself, do you only trade your personal capital, or do you also trade with prop firms?
I do for my personal capital.
Is there a reason why you don't trade with the prop firms?
No, I am happy with my trading with my personal capital.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, because I know some traders, they choose to stick with personal because they have enough, or mostly because the rules that prop firms have. So, with the experience you have with trading personal capital, I mean, how do you approach trading the news?
News, actually, I have a fixed rules for entries. So if any news comes and if it fits to the parameters, if it fits to the conditions, then only I enter. I don't chase moves.
Hmm.
So once the condition fulfills, automatically, that triggers the this thing, and
Because
I
I
can.
know I know there's something very common with a lot of Indian traders is they trade a lot of gold, and they want to NFP, they want to just buy and sell on the news release. Now, is that something that you would say is a winning strategy, or would you completely go against something like that?
I would say everybody has different strategies. Somebody,
Hmm.
they trade on news only. So trading on news, it is very volatile.
Hmm.
It can be very volatile to catch the moves. So, and the news will happen, and the news comes later. Action happens much before. So catching the move can be dangerous actually, but you have to have a stop loss fixed and position size. because your stop loss has to be synced with your daily risk and risk per trade, and you have to position size it. And if conditions are fulfilling, you can go ahead to take the trade.
Yeah, because a lot of the traders that come into the space, they're always looking for fast money. They want to make money very quickly. They want to be rich. They're tired. They're like, okay, I'm 24. I want to make 1 million or whatever it is, right? Whatever number. Now, what do you say to these traders? To these traders who are just coming into the space and they're like, hey, Venkat, look, I just want to make a lot of money fast. What do you tell them from the ground up, from your experience? Because I'm sure you felt the same thoughts
Yeah.
when you first started. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I personally, I also did the same. That I used to take a lot of trades, but taking more number of trades is not equal to making that much of profit. It can, it can be counter effective also, that you may end up in making more of losses. So I would say that, restricting the number of trades, first you should have a rule that how many number of trades you want to do, and it should fit your daily risk limit also. And if you are disciplined, if you are follow the rules, and if your risk is managed, your position sizing your risk, then you know that this much is the risk per trade, this is much of amount I'll be risking in a day. So you will be prepared, your mind will be clear about the risk. So it's over trading. That's what is called is over trading, that you are doing more number of trades in a day, and it may not be that helpful, I believe.
Interesting. And what would you say is one piece of common advice that is absolute garbage that actually hurts traders, but they're being fed that this is the way to make money?
Yeah. So I think the common advice I would say it's a garbage is adding money to their losses, because people think that that will help them recover, but it will lead to making more. It will make losses bigger only. So once they respect their risk and position size, they have to they have to follow the rules and trade discipline.
And I've got a really good one actually. Is you have the Risk First Friday, so it's your newsletter, right? So obviously, I want to touch upon the newsletter a little bit. Is I know you share a weekly framework. And I want to ask you, what is the one question that every trader should ask themselves every Friday evening before they close their computer or laptop for the day or the weekend?
Yes, I would say that every Friday weekend they should ask themselves that one question, that were they disciplined, did they save their protect their money during the week. So that is the main thing. So that is a question I believe that is the right question to ask.
And then why did you create this newsletter?
Yeah, newsletter I created for addressing different topics like risks and discipline, and more. My newsletter is for my subscribers and the connections, the readers, to give awareness about the trading and the risks. That would, I believe it is learning. I use this for newsletters for them.
Wonderful. And is there a particular reason why it's more important to ask yourself this question on a Friday if I was disciplined and not at the end of every day?
No, it has to be everyday activity, every trade activity. So you will see how you have, that is a check that you have on the weekend. You have to have that weekend on the daily basis, and on every trade. That check has to be there with each decision.
And
So did I follow my? No, I know the whatever trades I do, I will follow discipline. So I strictly follow my rules. So that way, it is being carried throughout the week. He has to manage his risk. Trading is about the survivor. Whether he has stayed disciplined throughout the week, every day, in his each and every trade, and whether he has saved his capital, protected his capital. So that is the main question.
Now, obviously, you've been trading in the markets for over a decade. And if you could turn back the clock to around about 2018, where you went into intraday trading, what would be the first group of skills that you would focus on, especially for a lot of traders out here now who are going from long-term trading to maybe even scalping or intraday trading? What sort of soft skills do you think that they would need to start working on, and how would they go about learning it?
I used to do impatient trades, always want to have quicker results. But today I am more calmer. I trade very patiently. I wait for the right opportunity. I follow my rules.
When you are in a loss and you're losing money psychologically, what's going through your head? Like, how do you keep yourself grounded so that you don't go into something like self-sabotage? But, sometimes we don't know our sequence of winners and losses because the market is random. So when you've taken a large sequence of losses, what's your internal dialogue like? Like, what's going through your head? And how do you keep yourself from going further back and moving forward?
So risk, when you have risk management in place, your daily risk is planned. So, and the position sizes. So your risk is already managed before your entry. So that will not bother you when you know that how much is you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
So always risk management and planning your risk should be a top priority in such cases. So that will not bother.
And in terms of like missing trades, because we all miss trades, how do you deal with missing trades? Like, do they motivate you, or do you get a bit upset when you miss a good trade because it's something that was in your trade setup in your time, but you just missed it for whatever reason? How do you deal with that?
I stay to be calm actually whenever any trade get missed or any setup. So I don't chase. That doesn't bother me. I strictly follow my rules, and if it is missed, I skip it and wait for the another opportunity because market will always give you chance
Mhm.
another trade. So wait for the trade and not to chase. I would say.
Okay. Very, very good advice. And I've got another good question because you've done a lot of things. Let me ask you about Introspect. So when a trader uses Introspect and saves their account from a total wipeout, what do you want to say to them about that? So, I mean, in what way would Introspect help them save them from losing their account, basically?
Yeah. So Introspect is basically designed for avoiding the costly mistakes. So mistakes happens due to lack of discipline.
Mm-hmm.
So discipline Introspect will help traders to build discipline
Mm-hmm.
into a habit. There are a lot of features which helps that discipline building their habit, challenging themselves. There are challenges that they can do on a month on month basis. So that will it is about practice, daily practice and building. So building the discipline is about practicing it daily and
And if in regards to like obviously discipline, consistency, there's going to be a lot of traders who are listening to this podcast today and they're still battling with becoming consistent and disciplined. If there was some advice that you would give them to help them build discipline and consistency, what piece of advice would you give them?
I would advise beginners that they should follow a system.
Mm-hmm.
They should follow the rules, keep the losses under control. Means take a smaller risk and follow it with consistency and build discipline and keep learning also
Mm-hmm. And
and be consistent with the plan.
right. And you mentioned like, be consistent with the small losses as well. Now, obviously, some people, they start falling into losses and they increase their risk. And where they may be risking, $100, they start risking $200 because they're trying to build their account back up. Would you advise against that?
No, they should not do.
Mm-hmm.
They should have the risk limit because if you risk higher, so the you're deviating your rules. So once you have rules fixed for the risk, that you have to follow it, be it your risk per trade or follow your daily
Mm-hmm.
risk limit.
Yeah.
So once you do it and practice it regularly and repetitively, so it will help in longer run and be in the market.
If a new trader came up to you today and said to you, "Hey, Venkat, I can see you're a successful trader. I want to learn how to trade." What would you say to them?
Yeah, they should come with they should first build an approach, come with the right mindset, risk management. So they have to build first a design fix rules for this, and then they follow it strictly.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the one advice I would give.
Right. And India.
This is currently designed for Indian markets, for Indian traders, because this, I honestly, it's my honest attempt to build this, design this product for helping the Indian traders to build a discipline and avoid these mistakes that that could lead that could to blowing up their accounts when they approach the market with the right mindset and with right discipline. That would pro- protect their capital and they would be in the game for a longer time.
Interesting.
I would say that the new traders should build focus on building a discipline and risk management, because the discipline and the strategy are both sides of the coin, both coexist. So you may have a strategy, but without discipline, it is the foundation. Like how for any building, a strong foundation is a must. So building foundation is the priority. First you have to control the risk, survival first mindset, and your uh, plan your risk for each and every trade, and follow the process. The profit should be the outcome of following the process.
Absolutely. The process first, outcome secondary. I love that.
Yeah.
If there is another market crash, how are you going to be looking to take advantage of it?
See, if I would say for intraday, you have to first check the market sentiment. Then only you have to plan your trades. If the market is bearish, you have to look for a shorter trade only. So, and for the long term, invest. If I may about the long term also, that if somebody plans for a long term, the panic is a good time, because I have already invested during 2008 crash, and I believe panic gives you the best opportunity.
And when you talk about the invested during the crash, what did you invest in specifically?
In 2008, I invested in mutual fund, because that time I didn't had a demat account.
Mm-hmm.
So I happened to visit a broker nearby. I learned about the schemes, that mutual fund schemes. I can invest without a demat. So I started with that. I invested across various type of mutual funds, growth, blue chip, flexi caps, micro caps, and micro caps did well for me that time.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. And from that, you were able to build your foundation into trading. And now here you are today, intraday trading and taking more advantage of it. And it might be taking a full circle. If the market does crash again, it's only going to be better for you, because you're going to be able to have that experience from the last one, take it into this one, and make even more money. So I love that. So Venkat, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast today. Absolute pleasure listening to your story. And thank you for sharing the value of all the traders listening today. I look forward to catching you in the next one.
Yeah, it's my pleasure too. It was nice interacting with you. And for the listeners, I would say be disciplined and take right decisions, because saving money should be the paramount, and it should be priority for everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Take care.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.